kind of a way of dealing with numbers, being the best, but also a way of developing yourself, developing teams, and working with people together.
What about you, Giovanni?
So, considering that when I started my company, we were literally like 5 people in a garage. No, I'm joking. Not in a garage, but in a co-working. That is pretty similar. Now we are over than 300 people around the world. So what I will say is that you will live different stages. When you found a company, you are just few of you, different goals, different way to communicate, different way also to lead your project, lead your company. Then in the medium stage, the scale-up phase, you will face completely different challenges, especially if your brand is growing globally, because you have a cultural effect of your growth, but you're also, of course, the people that start to work with you on your project with different culture, different languages. So the challenges are different. I think that as a founder, as a leader of an international brand, you have to be ready to change yourself every year. Not every 2-3 years, but every year, because when you grow up, every year is a new challenge.
How about you, Nusha?
So, I mean, there is, to me, growth means having like systems in play that you can just basically put jet fuel on and then just keep growing, right? You have like this thing where you say, if I add 10 people to this, I know exactly where this goes. But I don't feel like this is good for companies in a very, very early stage. Because as you said, there is this idea of 1 to 100, but many people think they have to be at stage 1 at the very first day of starting the business, which is day 0 to me, actually. So I feel like there's this time where growth really is in doing things that don't scale and getting from 0 to 1, building a certain foundation at 1 and then adding growth. Then seeing, okay, what is working? What can I sort of 10x on, 100x on? Where does it make sense to place those bets of like, here I'm gonna add marketing to it and so on, but you should never do that before you have a solid foundation.
I love that. So I want to start with what Andre just said earlier about, so you mentioned that kind of like there are 2 buckets of growth. One is about team, and you as the leader of the team, right? You're growing the team differently depending on the stage. The other one is the business. So you talked about revenue and the numbers, right? So I want to double click on that for sure. And also, as Nusha mentioned, there are distinct differences depending on where you are in your business. So there are things that you want to focus on from 0 to 1, while there are other things you want to focus on when you're going from 1 to 100, which I also want to double click on. I'm going to go back to the first question. So Andre, you mentioned about revenue. So let's talk about numbers. So tell me more for the entire panel, what are the different business metrics that maybe is more important in the 0 to 1 stage versus when you're in 1 to 100? What numbers do you look at, or do you think is important depending on those 2 stages?
Okay, first of all, I think in the phase from 0 to 1 million revenue a year, the most important thing you need to prove is whether your concept is working or not. It doesn't really need to be like really profitable. It doesn't need to be like make money in the beginning, especially the last years of e-commerce. Let's say the last years of e-commerce. It's more important to find the right processes, to have the processes done effectively, to find a team that really like the exercise they have to do, and I rather check whether I can make a process good. I can kind of find a way to create my revenue again and again, month and month again, without like really having like ups and downs. And I would hope the more I sell, the less my ad spend per unit will be, and I can start looking to be more profitable for the phase from 0 to 100 million. While I would really look in that phase to being really, really efficient, really grabbing the profitability, being rentable, having like really efficient teams, and really get to the point and get everything on the streets done and get it effectively done. And then I would really focus on improving, and let's say, in my perspective, your bootstraps, we make like 40 billion revenue here in the 4th year now. I would really, really focus on only generating that revenue, which really is profitable at the moment, especially in the market where we are in, because there are a lot of companies are struggling, and you become a really solid phase, you become really, really resilient compared to the other competitors, which I would still continue following these strategies for the next 3 years.
So what I'm hearing is in the early phase, laying the foundation, you might have to try a bunch of stuff to make sure you find the right process. But then when you're growing with scaling, it's more about efficiency of how can you apply that to more areas to grow that bigger. What do you think, Giovanni?
So my perspective is on my point of view because we develop software, so it's a little bit different kind of products. I would say in the beginning, the focus, according to me, it should be revenues. Just for one reason, if you generate revenues, doesn't matter how much is it your profit, it means that there is someone in the world that is ready to pay for your product. And this is the most important thing, because if there is someone that is ready to pay, and doesn't matter if your product is perfect, a lot of founders, they are obsessed about that, the perfect product. But think about the iPhone, just to say, the iPhone in the beginning was just email, listening music, and someone else. So don't follow the idea of the perfect product, follow the idea to confirm that someone is ready to pay for that product. Then in the second phase, in the scaling phase, everyone will say, let's find the right EBITDA of your business. It's right, I love the financials, KPIs, but I love more to say you have to prepare your company to scale. So the most important thing is the scaling framework. What I mean, the scaling framework is find the KPIs that confirm that your customers are still ready to pay for your product, but even to advertise your product, because the mouth of word is the most powerful marketing tool that you can have. So the best metrics in the scaling phase is just to check that your customers are happy, they are satisfied, and they are giving you the right data to implement new features and to scale your product. Then the EBITDA, it will be a consequence. Of course, it's so important, otherwise you will not pay the payroll of your company, but the EBITDA, you can fix it. If you have the right product, the clients want to have your products and you will get the best EBITDA.
I mean, I think in the very, very first days, the most important part is just to not die as a company. It's just to be alive, and that could be one of the biggest levers to that is revenue, right? So as long as you can keep the lights on, you can then also develop, and you can grow, and you can add a feature. You can, maybe add a new colorway, or whatever it is that you do. But in the first stages, I feel like many people are like, oh, I'm the CEO now. I'm such a fancy person. I need to do all those fancy things. Very first stages, at first just survive, and then figure out what made surviving easy, and turn that into sort of a growth playbook. If it's for you, like, okay, hey, I realized that we have that at sometimes, like new launches work very well for certain product categories. See if you can focus on that, double click on that, go deeper on that, and then let your customers dictate your growth playbook to you at first. And then at some point, once you see, okay, I have something that is winning, then you can go back and add efficiencies and so on.
I love that. It's almost like the notion about sometimes people get stuck is exactly what we have seen working on Axio as well, that our users really want the perfect idea, and you spend all the energy, the time, right, into I want to make it perfect, as opposed to just test it out and let your consumers and customers tell you what worked. So on that note, I would love to hear from each one of you. Give us some examples about specific tactics that you have tried out, or you have seen founders in your community tried out that really worked based on the feedback from the consumers.
So what we always do, we have, maybe just a quick step back. On our side, what we do is we group founders in sort of 3 buckets, right? So we have like super early stage, they usually still have a day job, they just love to play around with a certain idea. That's like bucket 1. Then we have bucket 2, which is people who started out, they make enough revenue to pay their bills, let's say, but they are the marketing manager, they are the sales manager, and they are the bookkeeping company. And then we have the third stage, which is the people who, much like they are at a stage where they scale, they are successful, and now it's about reaching extra high level. So, and I think that's very important to me, that depending on which bucket you are, different things work also quite well for you. And one thing, for example, as long as you're in the earlier buckets, if you're early stage, use the fact that you are the founder, you have the passion. No one in your sales team will ever have the passion that you have for your product as much as you do. So, if you see someone using your platform in a certain way, even if it's a very good way or a very wrong way, call them up and be like, hey, you know what? What's going on with you? Why are you doing this and not that, for example? That could be one of the biggest growth levers, because that will turn someone into a power user, because they say, oh, I actually spoke with a founder. He told me blah, 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 or she told me to do this. On the other side, if you're at a stage where you have hundreds or thousands of people, it's still cool to just call them up. And this is like one of those things that just seems so counterintuitive because it's nothing scalable. It's not like a growth playbook move per se, but I had that with like we saw that people just wouldn't show up to our sessions where we invite other founders to speak to our community, and just me calling them up, I learned so much that we were doing wrong without knowing that we base our growth on that.
And I think earlier someone mentioned here that it's like in the beginning, I think Giovanni mentioned that in the beginning you look for seed users, right? But in the growth phase, you're looking for people who are willing to tell that story for you. So exactly as what you just mentioned, Nusha, that if people can grow for you, then that's your scaling engine. So I love that. What about you, Giovanni? Any specific strategies, tools, or things that has worked for you or your clients?
Let's start from the mistakes, because we did a lot of them. So firstly, when you found a company, you have a product, your idea is that your product is for everyone. You think that everyone could be a client for you, and this is a big mistake, because you try to sell the product to any kind of customers, business, whatever. So what I learned personally and what I suggest to everyone is just to focalize after that you're acquiring the first 10 clients and the first 100 clients about who they are, why they bought your product. Maybe they are just in a specific, they have something in common. You have to find what they have in common. Maybe all of us that we founded a company. You have to understand, starting from the data, what is the common patterns in your clients, and then be obsessed about that clients. Is the laundry? Is a client of 20, 50, 40? What is the age? Where they live? A lot of data you can bring about your CRM or whatever that you use for track the data of your clients. But the most important thing is understanding exactly who is the 1, 2, 3 maximum clients that are buying your product, and become obsessed about them. Start to advertise on them, start to grow with them. Because if you become the best in class of, I don't know, the housekeeper people, or the plumbers, or I don't know, the yoga teacher, you will be the best in class, and you will have so less competitors. Because if you compete like 1, 2, 3 single buyer personas, you reduce the number of competitors that you are challenging with, and this increases your opportunity to grow. Then when you scale and you become like millions of customers, of course you can just be a little bit wider and extend your product to everyone, but start from some few small clients.
So I'm hearing two different things or two different strategies. On the one hand is you find the right single or a few list of personas, and then find people who are similar to them. But then maybe you grow big enough, then you have to grow beyond your existing short list of personas to look for who else I can target. But in the beginning, find one, and then grow that one in the same group, and then later on grow more of them or try more of them and grow them together at the same time. I love that. What about you, Andre?
Okay, I would provide two answers to that. First of all, to that stage from 0 to 1 million, and afterwards from the stage to 1 to 100 million. And when I talk to founders who are really like in the beginning, who probably have their job, who don't know whether they want to be self-employed, they want to do the step in order to make like live that dreamish life of becoming rich, is I always say, don't put your money in your stock or in your restock. Put your money where, let's say another way, revenue is structuring your company. So when you don't have revenue, you cannot structure your company. And when you have only a little money in your pocket, you shouldn't buy everything for your stock. You should buy it, or you should somehow think about what's the most important step which will structure my company the next time. And I think it's focus on marketing, focus on getting sales, and try to learn how to make more sales efficiently. And afterwards, like these stock themes are coming. On the other hand, I would say to founders, always check for one channel first, and don't have the feeling that you have like 3 or 4 channels simultaneously, because you cannot be efficient when you have like 3 or 4 different areas where you have to work. And on the other stage, I would say from 1 to 100 million, when you have kind of success and you interpret it as success, I would suggest to really still focus on your product. Don't add like a lot of products, don't add like a lot of cross-sells. Really focus on that one product. Go really deep into your, put it really deep in your DNA. Really be the best one who who is going to sell it in your country. For example, we only sell box spring beds, not like upholstered beds, wooden beds. We just sell box spring beds, and we do it for 4 years already, and we make 35 million euros in Germany. And we want to reach like 50, 60 million, and then we would just add another category of beds. So we do it like for 3 or 4 years or 5 years, just one direction, really focused. And afterwards, you can you can add more categories and add more complexity. That's what my advice is. So focus.
I think if I may add something, what we always tell our founders also is that they should just first take a hard look at themselves and be like, what do I actually want to spend on this growth right now? Like, how much do I have? How much can I actually put in there right now? Because I feel like we are often, either we hear those stories about like, oh, someone had this viral hack with like, I don't know, £10 put in, they received like a million or millions and millions in coverage. Or we have those very elaborate 7-step plans where you do PR, where you do CRM, where you have a sales team and so on. And usually that just is not working for a specific use case. That's just like a winning strategy from someone else. Whereas I think like what we do often with founders is we ask them, how much are you able to spend on it? How much can you commit to it? If you have like, if your focus is not to die right now, then maybe you don't have the time to go out and do a PR run for months and months. So I think it's also a lot about like whatever we talk about, people should ask themselves like, is this tangible for what I'm doing right now at the stage that I'm in? Do I have enough conviction in that if enough people know about this, that they'll also become customers? Yeah.
I love that. I think the focus on how much resource you have based on where you are is critical, because if you spend all the money and then didn't get the result you want, then you might end up risking losing your business. And also you mentioned about resources, right? Just the allocation of resources is super important. So I would love to hear more, maybe from Giovanni and Andre as well, that if you think about your business when it's in the scaling phase, what are the areas that you would spend more resources on? And resource can be both budget and also maybe human, the staff. And what are the areas that maybe you would spend less time on? Or how do you approach that?
From me? Oh my god. So, this is a very tricky question, because today you know that we are discussing about it's really worth it to hire someone if there is the AI that maybe can do the same identical job. So the challenge when you think about how your company can grow and have the right people at the right place is firstly based on the creativity, because we have to think about what are nowadays the tasks that the machine can't do in any case. You know, one of these is the ideas. I mean, you can ask GPT, just give me 5 ideas about a new business and blah blah blah. Maybe you can get some good ideas, but it's completely different of the human idea. Otherwise, everyone can become a billionaire just asking ChatGPT what is the best innovative project or startup to launch. So the creativity is the basic in terms of skills. So all the teams that work on creativity, like marketing, for example, or sales, or even communication, are probably primarily in terms of course, scaling. If you are building products, like in our case that we develop software, product software, is the engineers team. But again, in terms of skills, I always looking for people that they are obsessed for their products. Not the engineer that wanna code something, because the AI now can code anything. There are platforms where you can just ask and produce the new app with a prompt. But something about how much you are obsessed about the product that you are developing. Why the people should love your product more than others, more than your competitors. If you find this kind of people that every day come in your company and have the obsession to say, I can improve, I can bring creativity, I can bring new ideas, you will win for sure. The other activities, for example, the repetitive tasks like the customer service or the operational, the delivery activities, logistics, all these activities, honestly, I will ask myself before to hire everyone what it will be the situation in 1 year. Because the AI now is running so fast and there are so many automation that works much better than human, just because they work 7 on 7, 24 hours.
Good answer though.
The revised plan of the next hire in 2026.
I signed that. Well, what's happening in the scaling phase? Actually, you have a small team, small people who are really overconfident and think they can quadruple or quadruple the revenue. So probably you really underestimate what's going on when you have like 3 times or 4 times the amount of orders in the shop for the processes for the team. So you have like a way too much task to handle. So it's like kind of so many people, so many things you have to handle. And I would invest first of all in the marketing, of course, in order to get the sales, to get it done. Then I would have like a team which is really good, really effective, really good in working with each other in order to be like really flexible, working in marketing, working in other operations, maybe in support, working in, I don't know, somewhere else. And afterwards, when the team has really managed to deal with all this exercise, with this huge amount of tasks, I would come up and start with introducing processes that you are not dependent on the team anymore, because that's what's really sucks in the end, and it's really difficult. But once really critical guy is leaving, you're really dependent on that. So the whole company structure is like shrinking or like getting into danger. And processes help exactly this to compromise it, so you can like kind of you can put everyone in that situation, the process, working on it, and you have like a good process which is like kind of breathing when you have more to do and less to do, and that's, I would really focus on. I would put budget on that, and I would put budget more on marketing and more on supply chain, because that's really a situation. So you can make money, you can make efficiency in marketing, and you can make the efficiency in the supply chain to buy cheaper, and then you just need a machinery get it done.
I think it's almost like there's the inbound of growth and the outbound of growth. The inbound meaning like you're sourcing, how do you keep that supply chain more efficient so you get the products in more efficiently as you're growing and selling more. And outbound, all of you talked about marketing. So maybe I would love to double click on that a little bit more. Let's get more tactical. So I would assume our audience are hoping to get some secret sauce about what kind of marketing tactics that maybe they can try it out for their brands after today. So anything that you have seen maybe from the community, your clients or yourself, and then for under your own brand, that specific tactics or specific best practices when it comes to growth marketing that has worked, that you would recommend our clients, our audience to maybe learn about and try it out. Anyone can start.
I don't know why Indemedia is the best position on the stage. So, just to be practical, no? Let's talk about some tools that you can use even from today or tomorrow. Firstly, I truly believe that when we speak about marketing, the people think that if you invest so much budget in your advertising, you can get more clients. Even this is a false myth, and I explain you why. I truly believe that content is king, even nowadays. If you have a strong presence online, you will get for sure success in terms of sales, in terms of your product growing. And when you talk about your positioning online, how you are positioning your brand, usually the people think that because you are on the social, this is good enough to generate clients. The communication today is a unique and integrated communication, so you have to be constant about the different channels that you have, emails, phone, I don't know, depends on your business, social media, website, etc. But again, in the previous era, like 1 year ago, you had to have like 10 people, 15 people in your marketing team, because you need to check all the social media platforms, because X, Instagram, Meta, I don't know, TikTok, there are so many platforms, and you have to be constant on all these platforms, because every time that one person want to buy your products, the people think for this, what is the sales process and blah blah blah, is exactly what you do every day. If now you want to buy something, what you do, you go on the social media of the brand that you are thinking about, and then you check their reviews online. So when you think about marketing today with some marketing tools, say AI marketing tools, you can really have a team like 10 people, the equivalent of 10 people that work for you daily to post on your social media, to engage the comments on your social media, to answer to any reviews that the clients will leave on your platform online in any language and in any time zone, because it's the AI that is working on it. But again, it depends on how much time you dedicate to it and how much smart you want to think. Because till today, there are people now in 2025 that are thinking to hire 10 people to manage their social media. I would say hire the people to define the strategy of your social media, the tone of voice, the message that you want to speak, and then leave the eye to be constant and frequently every day. More content you generate, more clients you will get.
Can I quickly ask into the round, who has a product brand here? Who is selling a product? Okay, so that's more than half, so I'll answer for that. Essentially what we see is that people try to go for every channel, like with advertising, right? So there's the organic part where I feel like people should find you. If they search on Instagram, they should find you. If they search on Google, there should be something. But what we see is that what people do is that they spread the little bit of money that they have and they try to be relevant on every channel, which is just not possible. Find your channel. It might just be through organic, right? Like you see, okay, my post performed the best organically on Instagram. Then you know Meta is the place where you place your first ads. And don't try to dance on, like in German say, dance on every wedding or at every wedding. Be at one, be present, and nail that before you then take those learnings to other places. So this is, I think, product-wise, this is like the one thing that I would love for everyone to just take away. If you have a product brand, don't try to advertise everywhere, but rather find that one place where people appreciate you, nail that, and then look further. As Andre said, right? Like at first do one product, for example, on one platform, and if you see that's slowing down, but you reach the critical mass there too, then you can explore other places. But why stop? Why cap? What's working?
Brilliant answer. Really? I try to add something at that point. What you need in order to be the champion of one channel, you always need creators, you always need content, you always need, let's say, title anything. And what works good, what is running in one channel doesn't mean it's run in a different channel. So, in case you are lucky to win that one channel, I recommend to copy the ones that work to other channels to make it easy for you to find what might work, because when you found one channel, how do you find the second one? How do you know the second channel, let's say it's TikTok, Google, Meta, who cares? How do you know that this will go? You always have like this kind of feeling, this risk that you might choose the wrong channel. And that, in order to overcome that fear, I would copy my, let's say, Meta ads to Google. No way, it's impossible. I would try to improve the best ads and put them to Google or TikTok, and then afterwards I would do it for like TikTok for 2 or 3 channels, and I would choose that channel which is working the best, and then I would try to make new content especially for that channel. And this kind of playbook that I would, if I win that channel again, I would do a 3rd channel, copying my winners from the other, and start building that channel up again. Individually.
I love that. So you talked about channels, so I would love to double click a little bit more. So what are some channels that maybe you think could be on the lookout for 2026 based on what you have seen or you have been receiving, that maybe again our audience, not always most relevant for everyone, but you have been watching out for as it has been growing a lot, and maybe why?
So if I may start, we talked a lot about social media. I think something that's like growing massively right now is also just in-person communities. Well, I give an example. One of the founders from us, he's known to be like a hobby extreme athlete. So what he does, he runs a marathon in jeans. What he does, he's climbing mountains shirtless and so on. But he also sells like portable saunas and ice baths. So what he's done now, he's joining all of those communities where they do like those 10K runs, 20K runs, 100K runs, and so on. He became this personal brand within that little bit of a niche, and people just know he doesn't really like. He's not running around selling his saunas, but people follow him. And then he says, you know what? I have this routine that I do. It cost me once the 2,000 euros. He said, which is 1,700 for my coffee machine because I like good coffee, and 300 euros for my ice bath. And that's how he sells his product. People want to get on his routine. And so without really, like, he doesn't spend any money on ads per se. What he does, he builds a personal brand, and it works very well for him because he knows he's the crazy person that would do a marathon in jeans, for example. So if it's supposed to be tangible for you guys, find something where you're like, you know what, this is my level of crazy that actually probably someone else wouldn't do, another bigger corporate wouldn't do, and try to double click on that and tap into that. If it's, I believe, I mean, we host events and so on, so I'm inclined to say in-person community, great. But I genuinely believe that in a time where everything becomes scaled through AI and so on, the in-person component, if you can own that, if you can own your little group of 10 to 100 people that really become your biggest fans and are excited to see you even though you're selling a product to them, that's a huge game changer.
I mean, that's why we're all here today physically in the same room, right? And I think it really aligned well with earlier we'll talk about is the fact taking advantage of the fact that you are the founder. So it's all about having that human touch. Because as Giovanni, you mentioned that with all AI tools available for you, it's so much easier now to pump out like content all the time. But then what we lose from that process, first is more noise, right? And second is the loss of that human touch that all of us need all the time. So I love that that balance of efficiency or scalability in terms of creating content, but also bringing that human warmth into the stories and the engagement. Anything else you want to add, Andre or Giovanni?
No, it's fine. I mean, you exactly got the point.
It's too hard to follow for that one, right? All right, so maybe before we open up for any questions from the floor, any final advice or key takeaways for our audience today? When we have talked about the overall, what does growth mean? What does scalability mean? How does it differ from 0 to 1 to 1 and 100? Various marketing channels. So we have talked a lot. What is that one key takeaway that you would give our audience? You're ready.
Focus on revenue. That's the most important thing. And when you are going to be bootstrapped, please don't keep in mind that you need to be profitable in a certain amount in a certain time. So don't think about being like, I want to double my company year. Try to be profitable really soon. Try to be like really organized and focus on revenue after it. That's what I think.
Cool. So two advices. Firstly, on my point of view, because we build AI products, so my point of view is in any case connected to the AI. And honestly, guys, I believe that today, I don't know, I mean, there are different people here in the room with us, and you know, when in the 90s we had the internet, it was the first and most important innovation. Probably the AI today is the most powerful innovation that we have had in decades, but it's also the big opportunity, because the big difference between the AI and the internet is that the internet was a game at that time, in any case related to people with money or with a global presence to leverage that kind of innovation. The AI is literally something that everyone can start to use. So this is the era where the solo entrepreneurs, smart people, freelancers, all these people can really rely on tools and technology to create big ideas, big products, impactful products. And this is related to the second advice, because the big limit of everyone is that sometimes we forget that our biggest competitor, when I ask to the people, what is your competitor? They say a lot of names, but they forget that their biggest competitor is themselves. Why? Because ourselves were the first person that we waste a lot of time, we don't have the focus, the technology is so good, but the technology also has a lot of distraction into the social media, outtimes you. You don't know why you stay there and scroll on your social media. So if you use the technology in the right way, say, okay, let me give to the AI the repetitive tasks and the tasks that are draining my time, and I can get the time back and reinvest that time in activity like this one, for example, or be part of a group, and just reinvest your time on the activities that the AI can't replace, you will grow very fast. So my second advice in general is just think like a big brand, because the big mistakes, the people, before they become big, they see Apple, they see Meta and say, oh, I am so small, I'm not that. No, it's wrong. You have to think exactly like that. You have to create content like you are Apple, like you are your favorite brand, what is it, Nike. You have to think and do contents like that, because if you act and think like a big brand, you will become a big brand, sooner or later.
I would just say that perfection is your biggest enemy. So in terms of like looking at the title, also looking at the, what's the growth playbook, essentially whatever we would say, people try to outdo themselves and be more creative and smarter, and the graphic has to look even better and so on. Don't do that. Just release stuff. It doesn't really matter if it fails, and if it works out, it's amazing. So essentially, yeah, don't focus too much on perfection. Rather, just ship it, have it out in the world, and people will tell you if they like it or not.
Well said. Thank you so much. Any questions from the floor?
Just was very interesting. Thank you very much. I would like to understand better what is your business, because in the beginning was a lot of rush. I didn't understand, because from this I make a frame about your very good advice. Thank you.
So, if I may start, we are the Founders League, which is a startup ecosystem, meaning that we bring together founders, we bring together brands and so on, and what we do is we connect them, which happens through events that we host, but also through 3 buckets of groups that we have, which is the Academy, which is like early stage founders that we connect with knowledge. We have a community where we get together with experts, like and also have them here at our events and so on. And then we have our residency program, which is the Startup Accelerator.
In our case, we are a tech company. We developed softwares specifically for the marketing, AI software for marketing and for small and medium business. This is our market focus. We are thousands and thousands of businesses around the world to introduce the AI in their company and using the AI to increase their productivity, scaling, etc. So our daily job is just help other entrepreneurs to change their mindset, first of all, and then to start to introduce the AI in their company, showing them how the AI can really accelerate their scaling.
We are a D2C company from Germany. We sell box spring beds online, and our competitive edge is that we use a configurator that people can use in 7 steps in order to build their own bed, and then we produce it and ship it home. That's what our company basically does.
So hopefully that was helpful to help you understand where each of them are coming from. But thank you so much for the conversation. And hopefully you can try it out for you to grow your brand as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.